Hello, I'm Ashley and welcome back to my Glowforge 101 series. In this episode today, we are going to be going over how to use the pass-through slot on the Glowforge Pro. The pass-through slot can be kind of intimidating for some people, so I really wanted to add this into my 101 series, and it's really easy to use, so let's just dive into it and get to it. The pass-through slot can accept material up to 20 inches wide and roughly 5/8 inches thick. For this project, we are going to use 1/4 inch MDF. So if you're like me and you have your Glowforge in a small tight space, I had to put mine up against the wall even though I do have the pass-through slot. So anytime I do use it, I do have to gently pull my whole machine out from against the wall. Now it kind of varies how far I do have to pull it depending on how long of a piece I'm doing. For this project, this is about roughly 30 inches in length. So I didn't have to pull it out too far against the wall, but just enough. That way I can get my material to be behind the Glowforge. Because when the Glowforge does use the pass-through slot, it starts from the front of the Glowforge to the back. So you are going to be feeding your material from the back to the front of the Glowforge. And so that kind of can be a hassle if you're like me and you have your Glowforge up against the wall. Now, in order to use the pass-through slot on your Glowforge Pro, you are going to need to remove the two covering slots. There's one in the back and one in the front. To reach the one in the back while your Glowforge is powered off, gently move the laser tube gantry all the way forward. Once that's out of the way, then you can unscrew the two knobs and pull that covering off. Once you have the back one off, gently slide the laser gantry all the way to the back left corner. Then you can open up the front of the Glowforge and remove the covering at the front. The same process, just unscrew the two screws and remove the covering. So one thing I like to do when I am using the pass-through slot, I'll take one of my little hold down pins and just put it along one side of the honeycomb tray. That way I just kind of have a reference point to hopefully make the computer side of things be as simple as possible and that the design will line up perfectly each time. Another thing I do when using the pass-through slot is I'll use these hold down pins at the very front of the material as well. That way it's super locked down, and when I go to set the focus, it will be as accurate as possible. Now, one thing that is absolutely key when using the pass-through slot on your Glowforge is you just have to trust the Glowforge app. A lot of the times it can look really crazy on there, and you might think in between the passes that the Glowforge is going to do where you feed the material through that it's not going to line up. 9 times out of 10 it does work. There is always that off chance where it won't do its thing and then it wants you to try to manually align it. I can tell you right now, every time I've ever had to manually align the artwork on the Glowforge app when using the pass-through slot, it has always been wrong. So you need to really just trust the app that it's doing it correctly, even if on the screen it doesn't look correct. Okay, so in the Glowforge app, I'm going to change my material to thick draft board since I'm using 1/4 inch MDF for this project. And once I've done that, I'm going to hit the 3 little dots on the right and click the Pro pass-through slot and toggle it on. As you can see, this has changed the screen a bit, and it shows now that we have a 30-inch artwork piece in our thing, and that dashed line is showing you where the break is going to be in the design. Now, I do my best to try to make that break not be in like a crazy detailed place on my artwork, but it doesn't always work. Now, once you have your artwork mostly in place, what I'm going to do is hit those 3 buttons again on the right and click Set Focus and just zoom in and hit focus on the center of the screen. Now, once it has done that initial engraving and cut line, it's going to take pictures. Now, it's really important to not bump your machine or move it or move the material whatsoever in this process, because you want to give it the best chance to work. So this typically takes anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes for me. I'm not sure how long it takes other people's, but for the most part, that's about the time it takes, and it's not too bad. So once it is done taking the photos, it will ask you to shift the material forward. Now, once it's given you that go ahead, you can lift up the lid of the laser and adjust it how you need to. I typically try to not lift the lid if I don't have to, but typically on that very first one, I do have to lift it to push it through to the very front of the slot. But for the rest of them, I'm typically able to just pull the material from the front and not have to lift up the lid. So once you've shifted the material forward and hit continue, it is going to start aligning, and it's going to do that based on the pictures that it previously took. Now, you do need to leave a couple inches visible for the camera to line up the artwork correctly. As you can see, this is the perfect example of you need to just trust the Glowforge app that it is going to work. For whatever reason, when I went to do this, it just was not showing the rest of my artwork on the screen, and that's actually never happened to me before. So I'm not really sure what was going on, but I just trusted it. I just kept hitting continue and feeding the material through and hitting cut, and it ended up working out really well. So basically using the pass-through slot is super easy. All you have to do is make sure you really follow and read the directions that are on the Glowforge app, and you should be good to go. It's literally just a process of waiting for the machine to take some pictures, shift your material forward, click continue, let it realign itself, and then hit cut again.